Welcome to another episode of Vidhisamvad podcast, Project Nyay initiative. Today we have with us Advocate Samir Agrawal, sir. Sir, first of all, thank you very much on behalf of the whole team for being here, and thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. So, I'll begin with the first question. So, it's
Yes.
a very generic question, but still, what inspired you to pursue legal studies?
See, when I was in school, I was always a topper in the language English, and I really loved how to do wordplay. So, in this profession, the biggest requirement is that your command over the language that you're using, be it Hindi or English, should be so good that you can say most of the things in a crisp, clear sentence to the judge, to the opposite counsel, and to your client. It's very, very important. So, because I was good at debating, because I was good at this language, so although I was a good science student, but I took this call back then that I should pursue law because that is what is most appealing to me. Then I checked out some legal handbooks where there were questions relating to legal aptitude for fresh lawyers, for fresh law students who wanted to pursue law, which were available. When I read those legal aptitude questions, I really enjoyed them. Questions on tort law, questions on contract law, uh, they, they always amazed me. So it was a no-brainer for me. There was nothing else that I wanted to do than practice in a high court and Supreme Court. So it was very natural. I don't even remember that I wanted to do anything else
So, so,
except
uh,
except for playing
so,
in the IPL. That's all. Yeah.
big cricket fan, we expect.
Yes, a cricket fan, of course. I think most of the boys in India have been cricket fans. There's no other sport that we are passionate about. I also love stand-up comedy for that matter.
Oh, wow, so, Anubhav Singh Bassi or Abhishek Upmanyu?
None of them, but I mean, comparing Abhishek Upmanyu is slightly better.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. According to you, like debate students and students who are good at public speaking should definitely give a chance in the law field.
See, law field is a very, very serious question. Do you want me to do a Hindi and English or Hindi or English? I'll answer that way.
So
I'm com-
preferably English, but if you want to include both of them, it's fine.
okay. So the thing is, the profession of law requires you to study throughout. In the sense, if there are many books behind me, that doesn't mean that I'm reading all those books day and night. No. But the thing is, when there is a case that the client gives to you, you have to understand that case and see what kind of cases has Supreme Court decided and other courts decided which are relevant with the reference to the facts of the case of the client who has approached. Okay, so which immediately means that even to advise your client what to do, what not to do, even if you're not taking his case, just to advise you have to do a lot of reading. Okay, so if you want to jump into this profession, number one is that you should not be afraid of a lot of reading. Like you should be able to read 10 pages in 10 minutes. That should be the speed. Number two, although there are many colleges in India, there are so many colleges that it seems that it is one of the most easy things to do, and the fault is of the Bar Council of India, which is distributing licenses for running law colleges, it like tickets, like to anyone, to Tom, Dick, and Harry. So the profession's esteem has gotten very much diluted. Okay, but if you take care, if you select a good college right from the beginning, or if you do good internships, even if you are from an average college, then you can make up for it. And trust me, the fact that there's so many law graduates coming out makes the situation very tough for you to make your own practice. But that is also where it becomes easy, because 80% of the law graduates are actually they know nothing about law. They have just graduated for reasons that they needed a degree to have in their profile, so that they can continue with their father's business, or they can just continue with their own lives doing anything. So that is unfortunately the situation in this country. But even a country like Nepal has such strict exams for law that if 80% of the people fail who appear for the bar exam in even in Nepal. Same is the case with the United States of America, which is the most developed law jurisdiction and a highly paid profession. The number one people who are paid in the United States of America are who? Investment bankers. Number two are lawyers. Then your doctors come in, then your other people come in, engineers come in. Okay, because in any developed country, people are rich. So they need lawyers. They need really good, sophisticated legal advice, and they're ready to pay for it because they know that this is something intellectual. If you're giving me your case, I have to open the file and read it and apply my mind to it. It's not something which is pedestrian. It is not something which is just available on the street or off the rack. It is something that is only a very select few people have expertise. They have a lot of workload already, so they'll take out time to read, take your headache on themselves, and then make conclusions on your business or your conduct, which may have been illegal or which may have been having some issues. And there's so many branches of law. So it depends on a particular student or an aspirant if they want to pursue pure litigation, they want to go into corporate law firms, they want to join some big high flying NGOs, or they want to work in a company as a legal advisor, or they want to become judges, or they want to do something else like law and MBA, and then work in both kind of situations, or they want to go into academics. So there's so many options which actually are also very enticing, but you have to take care right in the beginning whether, first of all, you have the acumen, command over the language, actual authentic interest in the subject of law, because as I told you, it's a lot of hard work. Your physical presence is required for you to make money in this profession. It's not like that you will delegate everything. That is the good part and the sad part. And let me tell you something, since you have asked me this question. In India, in fact, in the entire world, there is only the highest paid professional people are in India, who are the designated senior advocates of the Supreme Court, and who are also very popular. The top 10 advocates, they earn the highest professional fees in any profession across the whole world. So no lawyer, even in the US, charges so high as they charge. They charge 50 lakh per hearing, 25 lakh per hearing, per appearance. So they earn 1 to 2 CR minimum in a day. But that is minuscule. You cannot look at that and say, okay, I want to become a lawyer because then I'll become rich. Those lawyers are a fag end of their lives. They are all 60 plus. Number two, they are also politicians. They're not purely lawyers, most of them. Okay, so, and they have a big clout because of their positions. That clout has helped them to get those kind of clients who are paying so highly. So those are the things that you have to keep in mind. One good thing is that as you grow in this profession, like even at 40 years old, you are a young person in this field. So if you reach a good age, then you just have to show up and you'll get good fees. So that's also a good part.
So, you also seemed a little concerned about a lot of law colleges in India. I mean,
Yes.
what is that one particular thing that triggers this concern?
Okay. So I'll give a very, very simple analogy, very simple answer to this. You tell me something, anything that is easily available, will it be something that will have a lot of worth attached to it? For example, there is no real um scarcity of, say, water in a particular city. It's just available like anything. So nobody will be paying for that. Okay. So if lawyers are all and sundry, and wherever you go, there are 10 lawyers present, regardless of the fact that the quality that they might be delivering might be obnoxious, but you'll get to know only when you have already engaged them. And then once they don't deliver, you get an image that all the lawyers are cons and they are fraudsters. So the whole image is suffering, number one, of all the good lawyers also. So the 20% or 10% lawyers who actually work and who actually love this profession are really, really terribly harmed by the government policy of opening law colleges like this. The only people who are actually surviving very well despite all these obstacles are the people who are having legacy, are not first generation lawyers. Okay, so this is a sad truth. If you are a first generation lawyer, then you have to work it out a lot, because if you tell a client, for example, a client comes to me and I tell them the fees for this matter will be X rupees, but the client will go outside the office and consult two lawyers who will say, I'll charge 1/10 of X, 1/10 of X. So the client will think, let me try this guy. He's only charging 1/10, and this is actually true. Okay, but for if you are Kapil Sibal or Ram Jethmalani, then it is fine, because then you are a celebrity. But for non-celebrity first generation lawyers, either you go into the corporate arena, or if you come to litigation, then be ready for the music that you have got to face, because the not only the courts are difficult to tackle, but the clients are very difficult to tackle, because they are always like, what are you doing, like you filed a case and after 2 months or 1 year the court is not delivering its final decision. So the fault is not the lawyers, but the judge is not only delivering the decisions or is taking a leave or something, but you have to defend that in front of your client, the poor performance of the Indian courts and the Indian judiciary. The whole burden of defending their lackluster approach falls on a private lawyer, poor private lawyer, because the client thinks vakil saab kuch nahi kara pa.
So,
So
so
this is sounding very
yeah,
discouraging, but I'm just trying to give you a real picture.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, according to you, that due to abundance, it's difficult to find authenticity.
Of
That's the
course,
main.
if something is scarce, for example, admission into IITs is very tough. So therefore, they are valued. Admission into MBBS is so very tough. So therefore, they are valued. Similarly, admission into the IAS exams, becoming an IAS officer is very tough. So if you make law the same thing for law also, then the quality will just skyrocket. The pay will skyrocket. Everything, the quality of work, the quality of whole club of lawyers across India, then you will not see pan spitting lawyers, or lawyers who are always getting into conflict with the police authorities, or lawyers who are just doing gunda gardi.
Are you also a first generational lawyer, sir?
Yes, I am a first generation
So,
lawyer. Yeah.
okay. So, sir, personally for you, how difficult was it settling in the industry?
So my journey has been very, very unique, because I started out with working in a corporate law firm for about 9 years. So I did not have to face this or see this problem at all, because when I was working in a corporate law firm, it was all given on the platter. There was no rut. All it was like an elite small group of people who were working on high flying cases, high profile cases, in drawing a hefty salary and going home. Although it was a lot of hard work, but there was uh, once you get recruited by a top-notch law firm, then you are secure in the manner that now you don't have to struggle in the conventional way that I said about law. So that is your escape route, so to say. But then the disadvantage of that is that you fall into that trap of machinery of corporate law firms. So first you join as a junior associate, then you become an associate, then you become a senior associate, then you become a counsel, then you become a partner, then you become an equity partner. So these are the stages that you go through, and this takes about 15 years, 20 years. The so now for you, the profession of law has actually become um sort of working in. It's like working in an MNC, or it's like a regular job. It's not very much of lawyering. Like you don't never go to the High Court, you never go to the Supreme Court, you never go, you never argue a case. It's all contractual work done in the conference rooms, in your cubicle. The maximum time where you get to show off your skills of speaking or something are on a conference call, on a con call. So your whole team and the client are on con call, and then you are saying that, you have violated these many laws. So now we have to draft a response to the regulatory authorities' notice against you. And so that is also fun. To each his own. For example, if you love that, why not do that?
So, as we can see that you started your litigation practices after working in a corporate firm. So,
Hmm.
what was that one thing that corporate firms taught you which you still use in your litigation career?
That's a very good question. So that brings me to the very good part of corporate law firms is that they teach you work ethics, they teach you global best practices, how to write an email to the client, how to draft a document in the best possible manner, how to have communication skills in a very uh, elite setup where the clients are, say, very high profile clients, maybe from some foreign land, and how to basically be a good global lawyer. Okay. And also how to deliver quality to the clients and how to maintain a good client, healthy client relationship, and how to um, uh, you know build them also. So all those things, they come in handy when you set up your own practice, because you now know how these small things work. But mm, apart from that, there's not much that, because it's a totally different ballgame. You have to deal with the police officials when you're in litigation. You have to deal with the judges, which you have never done in a law firm. You don't even, you have to deal with the court masters, and you have to deal with the whole court staff. And the way the courts in India work is very, very based on court craft. So, for example, a lawyer who has worked for 10 years in, say, the best law firm of this country will not know how the matters are listed in the High Court or the Supreme Court. So, even if I tell a partner of a law firm today that my case is listed in the High Court of Allahabad or High Court of Delhi, he will not be able to find out where, at what time will that matter come up, what stage is the matter at, what to do, because everything is so procedurally oriented and so niche that you will not know. For example, every day High Court has a cause list. That cause list is divided into three or four kinds of cause lists. No lawyer in a corporate law firm will ever know how to look at those cause lists. Even lawyers practicing in the High Court sometimes are not aware. It's such a complex thing. So my point is that litigation is a completely different ballgame. So the only thing that you can import from a corporate career is the work ethic and the global best practices.
So, for a non-law audience, what is a cause list?
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So I was being very technical. Cause list is basically the name given to the list of cases that are to be listed on that particular day, for which the cause list is released on a particular date. So every day, every court releases a, a list in the evening. Sometimes in many courts, in the Supreme Court, it happens 1 week before. Okay, sometimes in some court it happens 3 days before in advance. So they release a list of cases that are listed on a particular date, which is called the cause list, because those cases are referred to as causes, so it's called a cause list. And where you can see your, if the cases that you have in that list, with along with the serial number, and along with the advocate's name, and along with the other basic details like the case number and the case full name. So that's called a cause list.
So, as we heard that you were talking about how litigation is very much different from the corporate field. So, for students who are interning right now in law school currently, how important do you think the how important do you think the exposure to courts is? Because some people out here have already made a name that they want to go to corporate firms, and as a result, they intern for corporate tier two, tier three firms only. So, how important do you think the exposure is towards courts?
For people who want to make a career purely out of corporate law, the experience is not very important, because you'll hardly get to use that experience in your day-to-day table work. The experience that is important is that you should be reading the Financial Express. You should be abreast about corporate law updates in the country. You should be having some idea of what is a shareholders agreement. You should be having some idea of what is a company, what kind of companies are there. Should be aware about these kind of things. Although even a corporate law firm has many departments, like the M&A department, which is mergers and acquisitions, the banking department, the projects department, the regulatory department, even a litigation department. So it is depending on which team you, for example, I worked with the competition law team. So you have to be aware of the subject matter a little. Plus, in those law firms, it is very, very essential. In addition to your aptitude, you should be able to speak well, because most of the times you'll also be interacting with the client. It's a client facing job. The clients are really high profile because they're paying you by the hour at a very high rate. So big companies, listed companies like Hindustan Unilever, Reliance, those are your clients. So speaking to their senior management and impressing them, not making many mistakes, those are the things which are more important. I'm telling you actually the real things. I don't think many people will, they will say big things like that you should have experience of going to the Supreme Court or meeting the Chief Justice of India. That no, nothing will help you. Your table work will help you. You should understand the task given to you.
So, speaking of internships, what skills should one have to be a part of your law firm?
So internships are something which is basically your gateway to understand how what lies ahead. So internships are mainly for the young people to understand and observe very in a very vigilant manner that what actually is happening, what the hell is happening here, how is the work being done. Because and usually the interns will be able to only partially contribute. So for example, I'll just give you an example. For example, we are working on a big transaction. Say Pepsi is acquiring Coca-Cola, and that legal work is being carried out by a law firm, and there is an intern. So in that whole process, the intern can you know do some research work on a particular thing, on a particular concept that comes across, or maybe they can help in um, proofreading of documents. So what I'm trying to convey is that for interns, it is usually for observing and understanding whether uh, they what when they actually have a job there. So what will they do? But when you are in your final year, then it becomes a little serious, because in the final year, when you are interning at a place, they can consider to hire you also. So which means that now you have to work really hard, because now you actually don't know how to really work, uh, but uh, you will not be expected to do the actual real full work. But if your team sees that this person is very disciplined and sincere, and is going out of the his or her way to complete some tasks, no matter how right or wrong, so they might be inclined to engage you, because then you become a part of that team in a way that you become indispensable. So that is what people who are really passionate to work in a law firm, they try to do. They try to work in one of their favorite law firms in their final years, and give it all, what how they can get around that.
So, what skill should one have to intern at law chambers of Samir Agrawal?
The very skills that I just spoke about. So it's like you should have that discipline, and uh, although it sounds very run of the mill discipline, the meaning of that is that it should be very much evident that you really want to make a mark, and you really want to yourself become a very good lawyer, because this is exactly like, I would say, something like what a Bollywood hero does, because it's like you have to go and perform in courts. You have to go and perform, and people recognize you by name. So if you are interning, you also have to be that hyperactive and always vigilant. It's unlike other professions where you can just uh, do coding and do laptop work and just get away. I'm not saying that coding might be bad, because this Google Talk is only possible because of coding.
Yes, sir. So, we also saw that you have done your LLM from London University.
Yes.
So, as I see a lot of students around me plan to do some like their further legal studies in foreign countries. So, with you personally, why did you choose London University? And what scope do students in India have for studying abroad?
Okay, that's a good question. So, why did I choose London University? Is because I wanted to, my reason for going abroad was very simple. I did my LLM in 2011. 2011, India, I wanted to study competition law, basically. Competition law was not being taught in India properly, because 2011 was the year when it was implemented in India fully. So there was no question of very good teachers being present. But in London, it was being taught since last 60, 70 years. And London University had one of the best professors, world-renowned professors of that subject. And I was so interested, because I went to the library in front of the Supreme Court in India and took out a book on competition law, because I wanted to write my dissertation on that. So that was the first time I held in my hand a commentary on competition law. It was written by some British author, and I opened up any random page, and there was a case study given, of Lufthansa Airlines in Germany, which said basically that Lufthansa airline was fined by the competition authority of Germany in some millions and millions of euros because they were engaged in predatory pricing, which means that they were actually selling their flight tickets at a very low price. So I was thrilled at the idea that somebody could actually give consumers a good time and still being fined for that. What kind of law is this? So I read more about that case. Then I wrote my research paper on that. And then I applied to in London. And I went to London basically because London is also slightly cheaper than New York. So if you spend X amount of rupees to study LLM in London, so you'll have to spend 2x in the US. That was one of the reasons. Secondly, London is also, so to say, um, I mean, like for example, when I went to London University, there was a statue of Mahatma Gandhi there in the law school because Mahatma Gandhi had also studied from that same law school. So we all also had those no Indian links which excited us. So that's why I decided to go there, and mm, so yeah, that was my reason, and I really enjoyed studying those subjects. And then I actually implemented them when I came to India. All the competition lawyers were in very high demand. When I came to India, I had 3 job offers, and all the other people who went with me, they none of them got a job offer from any law firm. And I had 3 offers from 3 different good law firms, and I had that luxury to decide whether to go to a particular one or not, which is very very rare. It was simply because I was so interested in the subject that I already written a research paper, a dissertation in which I got a merit. So with that profile, it was very easy for me. It was like a cakewalk. And of course, I was good in interviews also. That also helped.
So, being a lawyer, how
Yeah.
do you deal with the question of conscience? Because sometimes you know that the client that you're dealing with could be possibly wrong. So, how do you deal with that particular question being a lawyer?
Okay. So a great deal of help is derived from the fact that the Constitution of India allows you to represent a person who may have indulged in a criminal or an illegal activity, because it says that everybody has a right to representation. Everybody has a right to be represented by a lawyer. If they don't get a lawyer, then we will give them a lawyer. The right is so strict. So the thing is, if somebody comes to me and tells me that I committed this crime, but this crime was committed in these circumstances, I was provoked or something else had happened. So what I'll do is, instead of trying to prove that the crime was not committed by that person, I will try to prove mitigating circumstances. Mitigating circumstances are the circumstances that lessen your punishment based on the circumstances within which that crime was committed. So, for example, if there's a person who otherwise has no criminal history, he has committed a crime for the first time because somebody um, threatened him or one of his family member in a very bad way, so he could not make sense of anything and hit that person in a way that that person got seriously injured or even died. Okay, so while I cannot say that he has not committed a crime, but I can explain the whole scenario to the court so that when if he's about to get a say a punishment of death by hanging, he might be punished for say life imprisonment if it is worthy, if it is justified. Okay, If I don't, for example, if Kasab came to me, the terrorist, and said, please represent me. So I will say, no, I can't represent you because that is not going well with what I think, my thought process. But the truth is that this government provided him a lawyer, and he was given whole full due process. Although he killed so many people in broad, in front of the camera, everybody could see that he's killing people. But even then, he got that relaxation of getting a lawyer.
Since like you've studied from London University, in the current scenario for students who are planning on pursuing international studies in the law field, what are the top three places, top three universities that you would suggest in the on the current basis?
So it really depends on the subject. For example, if you want to study intellectual property laws, then in London, there is a college called Queen's Mary, where the best professor of intellectual property in the world is teaching. If you want to study arbitration law, the place is King's College London. The best professor in the world is there. If you want to study competition law, it's King's College London and University College London. The best professors in the world teach there. If you want to say go for corporate laws and really work in a foreign country, then you go to the USA, because in London, the idea is basically to give you a good academic LLM, and then you use that LLM in your own country. You can also work there, but the higher chances of you working in that foreign land is in the USA. And the chances get higher when you have actually done your law also from that country. Because LLM is not your ticket to a job in a foreign country. Neither is it a ticket to a job in your own country. LLM is just a superimposition of the fact that, okay, you know more about the subject. It's a stamp of knowledge. It's not an MBA that is a ticket to your... An LLB from National Law School, Bangalore is far, far, far superior to a LLM from Oxford. And this is not an exaggeration, because you can do an LLM from Oxford if you pay them the full fee without scholarship also. Okay, so that is one thing. So people who want to really work abroad, I would suggest them, if they are in 12th, they should consider doing law from abroad. Now the question is, if you have already done your law from India, but still you want to work abroad, then there are exams that happen in the US that you can appear for, which qualify you as an advocate there also. But that'll take some time, like about 2 years. I think a lot of preparation is required and a lot of expenditure is required. But once you clear that, all those levels, then you become a lawyer as good as in the USA, and you can practice there. So, but nothing is better than doing LLB from the country that you want to practice in. It's a very sensitive thing. Even Indian courts won't allow New York lawyers to practice in the High Court of Delhi. No court would allow a lawyer who has not done law from India in Indian courts. So a lawyer from the USA will have to do an LLB here and then appear.
Right, currently we see there is a lot of development in the law field. For example, currently we see entertainment law, which is booming, media law, which is booming, and sports law and all is booming. How do you see this trend of development of these particular laws as a shift from the traditional working methods?
Okay, so see, the thing is, these kind of fields are very, very niche. So, for example, if I'm a competition law expert, like I am, I can speak about that. I am very much aware about what are the scope and what are the avenues and what is required to be done. But I'm really not aware about people who are just working in sports law, what is happening there. So when you are a corporate lawyer, then you can have these kind of specializations. But when you are a litigating lawyer, then you cannot really have these specializations, because even high courts and supreme court judges are not specialized. Supreme Court decisions, which are binding on all courts, even the specialized courts, are actually not expert judges. They are generalistic judges. They look at sports law matter also. They look at criminal matter also. They look at media law matter also. They look at IPR matter also in the same way. So uh, ultimately, law is about the law that is framed by the parliament, reading that, interpreting that, and also reading a case law related to that, maybe delivered by a Supreme Court or a High Court, and then all together understanding how it is being applied. Okay, then it could be in any sector, banking sector, sports sector, or sector that you are speaking of. Of course, it will help if you are working only in a particular sector, like say media law. Then after a particular point of time, you will know all the loopholes, etc. That will help you. So it's good to specialize. It's good to specialize, but then you leave out on other things like the generalistic things, like the civil laws of the country, the criminal laws of the country, the constitutional laws, the writ jurisdiction of the high courts, which is basically trying to press your fundamental rights. So it's your choice if you want to become a lawyer in a specialized field like pharmaceuticals. Like one of the person I know is only doing pharmaceutical law practice. So regulatory. So there are authorities which regulate the price of medicines and give licenses to companies like Cipla to distribute and sell medicines in India. So they have a lot of litigation. So they only do those kind of litigations. I know lawyers who only work in electricity laws and no other laws for their whole life. I was working in only competition law. If I would have left that firm, I would have throughout my life worked in a small area like competition law, which is a very good area. Small area, meaning that only few big companies come in the ambit of competition law because it deals with monopolies. So companies which are really, really huge, they come in the ambit of antitrust or competition laws of the country. So it is your call. I said to myself, I don't want to work in competition law throughout my life. That's what I said to myself. So which decision could be criticized because being an expert at something may be slightly better than being a journalistic lawyer. But then, these guys like Harish Salve, they are not experts at a particular thing. All the Chief Justice of India is not an expert at a particular subject. Okay, so if you want a cozy corner and a good corporate career, then specialize by all means. But it is very hard to specialize in litigation. The broad specializations are civil litigation and criminal litigation. These are the broad specializations in litigation. But in corporate law, there are super specializations like you spoke of, and which are also very good because then you have time to study only one kind of law for your whole life. So you know in and out of it. That is the advantage.
So being in this profession also allows you to challenge yourself in some way.
I'm just saying that it's of course challenging because when people come to you, they have made a mess of something. That's why they've approached you. Now you have to convince the judge, and there's actively one person who's trying to oppose you, who is prepared whole night just to make your job tougher. So you know that tomorrow when you're going to the court, there'll be a person, in fact, a whole battery of lawyers who are going to argue against you. So imagine what can be more challenging than that. And then, of course, the judge will ask questions to you. So, of course, that is the reason you don't see many good lawyers arguing in courts. And that is the reason that you can actually have a good career in a company as a legal, in working in the legal cell. or maybe working in a corporate law firm, which is slightly tougher because a law firm is more of like a corporate law practice, because then you have clients and you have to deliver good quality, high quality work to them. That is how it's different. Yeah.
So, we are drawing very close to the end of the podcast. So, two final questions. First of them being, as we saw that one of the cases which you were fighting in the Supreme Court has garnered international attention.
Yeah.
So, if you could please elaborate on that case on a very brief basis, it would be very helpful to the audience.
Okay, I'll try to make it brief, but it'll take some time because it's a complex case.
No issues, sir.
Okay, so I'll try to make it as simple as possible and as less technical as possible, because I'm very sure that very few people will be aware about the details of competition laws. It's a very super specialized area. So, in brief, competition law deals with behavior of very big companies which have uh, the ability to affect the market price and quality of products just by their actions. So, uh, to give a very, very, very raw example, as I said, that if Pepsi is acquiring Coke, for example, there are only two players who are selling cold drink, and if Pepsi acquires Coke, so now there is only one entity in India that is selling cold drink. Now that cold drink can be priced at 500 rupees per bottle, which might be available at 50 rupees right now. But you don't have an option, so you'll pay that 500 bucks, right? So this is called abuse of dominant position by a monopolistic entity. Similarly, if very big players in a particular sector, like say all the ice cream manufacturers, Amul and uh, your other whichever other Baskin Robbins, and they, yeah,
Dinshas,
yeah,
Vadilal, and all of them.
yeah. So I was overwhelmed by the by saying ice cream, so I just forgot the names of those companies. So if they meet, I'm just giving you a very raw example to make people understand. If they meet, and this is very interesting, and this actually happens, this happens all around the world, that the big promoters and directors and managing directors of very big companies of a similar product, they meet in hotels. It actually happens all the time, big hotels, and they say, come on, let's sell our cornetto cones at not 20 bucks, but 35 bucks, 40, 50 rupees. Uh, all of us sell it at a much, much higher margin so that we can make supra normal profits. One stage is making normal profits, the other stage is making higher profit, the other, next stage is making profits which are insane. So, for example, all the big players get together and decide that okay, we are going to charge this much from the consumer. The consumers, the poor consumers, don't have an option. This is a very serious offense in the United States of America, even in London, even in Australia, that promoters can get jailed for it. The fines are in excess of 10% of the whole turnover. Even in India, it's a very serious offense. It's called cartelization. It happens in all the government tenders also, where the different bidders collude and say that we'll bid for this amount. So now, basically, in the coming to the Uber case, what happened there was that when Uber came, there was a lot of surge pricing happening, and there was an arbitrary increase in the tariffs, and nobody knew how. Now the thing is, um, uh, when it was simple to understand in case of ice cream manufacturers, they're meeting and they're deciding on pricing, so it becomes the offense of cartel, as we say. But the Competition Act says the offense occurs when the people in the same industry meet and talk about or decide the prices, okay, directly or indirectly. Now, in the Uber case, the price of the taxi fare is being decided by all the drivers together, which is very absurd to how. Although in reality, Uber is deciding that price through its app called Uber, but it is making all the drivers sign an agreement which says that we agree to this pricing, and we also agree to the price, to the fact that all other drivers will not deviate from this pricing. So there is only one source which is deciding the price that is being charged from the final riders, and it can be increased at 4x, 5x, right? So when I read the law, I thought that it is an indirect cartel on the behest of Uber. So while the drivers may not have actually colluded, because it is not possible for all the millions of drivers to come together and sit in a hotel room, but by way of an Uber app and by way of signing the exact same identical agreement that is also available on the website of Uber for all the driver partners, they were, and Uber defines them to be independent entrepreneurs drivers. They don't say they are employees. If they were to employees, then there is no cartel, because a cartel can only occur when different firms come and talk about pricing. But if the employees are only talking, that means only one company is talking, so there's no problem. But if the different entrepreneurs, different business people come from the same sector and say that we are going to charge this much from each consumer, then it becomes a cartel, offense of cartel. Price fixing. It's called price fixing. So that was the whole premise on which this case was based on. This same thing was taken up in the USA and was actually considered to be a violation of the competition laws against Uber only. But in India, the Supreme Court could not understand how can this be an offense. So they said that we are not able. They said that there is no offense, but they also said that anyone in India, usually what happens is when you go and file a case in a particular a complaint or a case, you have to be directly affected by those facts to be able to be eligible to file a case. The concept is called local standi. But the Supreme Court said that because of this case of the case that we're talking about, let's allow each and everyone to file competition law complaints. Any company which is violating the competition law or which is acting abusively against its, using its market power in a bad manner against the consumers, anyone, even not directly affected, can come and file a case. It's like an FIR to the police because it's a white collar crime. So this was a momentous landmark ruling that allowed all in sundry, even a Bhikhari sitting on a road can go and complain in the Competition Commission of India that he thinks that Kellogg's is pricing its conflicts in a very high manner. Or it can also happen when suppliers of Kellogg's might have some suppliers, like they must be supplying wheat and corn to them, right? So Kellogg's might be having one-sided contracts with them because they know that Kellogg's is buying 80% of their produce, because Kellogg's is such a big player of cornflakes. So those suppliers will also become victims of their anti-competitive conduct, where Kellogg's would say that you provide me at least 30% discount, otherwise I will not buy your product. Or you don't supply the same thing to anybody else, otherwise I will not take your product. These are actually live cases, actual cases that I'm talking about in a very simple term. So these kind of things happen, and this was a very small. And so some journalists from USA approached me on this Uber case and asked me that what has happened to the Indian Supreme Court? Why is it not able to understand such an elementary basic thing that there is actually a violation? So I had no other answer but to say that they don't have the time to look at a new law, understand it, and then apply it, because they are all at the fag end of their careers. And now they don't have the time to understand a brand new law, which is so complex, apply it. So they say, the judge actually said, don't you think the Uber has made our life so easy now? Initially, when we got out of an airport or got out of a railway station, auto rickshaws used to fleece us, but now it's so good. I said, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that there's no violation. You don't, if you think that they are generating good efficiencies for the consumers, which is also provision in the Competition Act, you can give them a relaxation, but you cannot say there has been no violation. So, for example, when we started this podcast, we were talking about mitigating circumstances. So you can give them a very less punishment, but you can't say, "Oh, I don't think that there's a violation." The violation is clear cut. There are so many articles written by foreign authors on this case saying that Supreme Court was wrong. In fact, I have also made those statements that Supreme Court has passed a decision in a very rushed and a very ignorant manner, and they don't know what they're saying.
So, also congratulations on crossing 250K followers with Legal Lucknow.
Thank you.
And we, all of us are, you know, very big fan of your work. And the last, final question. What is your one advice for students who are about to pursue legal studies, and
Mhm.
one advice for students who are currently pursuing legal studies?
Okay. So, people who are currently pursuing legal studies, I would go with them first. Is that if you are in the initial years of your pursuing law, then do heavy, heavy, heavy internships. Heavy, I mean by heavy, is a variety of internships. In the first 2 to 3 years of your law school, that'll make you aware of what you really want to do repeatedly. So, for example, in the first year, you go and intern with a high court judge or with an NGO, because you are not ripe enough to intern with a corporate law firm. In the second year, you can go and work with a lawyer, small, uh, a mid-level lawyer. In the third year, you can work with a corporate law firm. And then in the fourth and fifth year, try and work at the place that you really want to continue working. Okay. So that is my main word for the people who are pursuing. People who are about to pursue, I think they should enjoy life, because after this, life is become life is going to become very tough for them. You have to study so much. So just be very open to going for moot courts. Be very very open to going for debates, doing extracurricular activities relating to law, and even otherwise. What I have realized during studies and otherwise is also that people who are really active in extracurricular activities, not extracurricular in the sense of not only like dancing or music, but the fact that if you're doing a lot of moot courts, or if you're doing a lot of uh, 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 you know so to say, writing a lot of articles, making a lot of publications, doing a lot of in college activities, that is a sure shot winner, because um, uh, nothing can beat someone having the knowledge of organizing something. Because when you're working in a law firm, you're basically organizing projects. So if in college you have organized a fest, a college fest, or a part of that, that will come in handy, because you know how to deal with people, how to handle a team. Those are people don't realize when they are in college. They think that, oh, these things are not necessary, but actually those are the things, because books are always there. You can read books at any point of time at your own convenience. But handling people, organizing things, planning things, and actually executing things, that is the real thing. So for people who are about to pursue, take everything heads on, be a yes man. If your teacher, if your professor, if your colleagues, if your friends ask you, that, oh, do you want to come along in this activity? Say yes instead of watching a movie. Say yes. Yes, I'll come along. Because you won't realize that 5 years later, you'll be thanking your stars that you went to that particular place for doing that particular activity. Because now you can quote it at 100 places. You'll meet two more new, you'll meet more people who might also end up giving you more opportunities to work.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful session. And on behalf of the whole team and our project coordinators, Pavan SS and Kamal Aditya, thank you so much, sir.